It was still dark when I came home from the hospital, holding my newborn wrapped in a thin blue blanket. The air smelled like wet asphalt and quiet. The street was empty. Every step toward our porch felt heavier, like the world was warning me that something wasn't right. My hands were trembling, but not from fear, from exhaustion, from the weight of the tiny body pressed against my chest. I kept whispering, "We're home, baby. We're finally home." Then I saw it, our front door, a new heavy silver padlock. Not ours. It gleamed under the porch light like a threat. My key hit the metal uselessly. I tried again, then again, until the sound of metal clinking against metal started to echo through the quiet. And that's when I saw the paper, a single sheet taped crookedly to the door. The handwriting, sharp, angry, familiar. I read the words once, twice, and my stomach dropped. "This is my mom's house now. You live on the street, slut." She thought the worst part was the note on the door. But what happened an hour later changed everything. Like, comment and subscribe. The truth comes next. For a few seconds, I just stared. I couldn't even feel my legs. My brain kept searching for logic. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe the wrong house. But no. The doormat, the potted plants, the small dent on the doorframe. This was my home. The baby moved against me, soft and warm, unaware that his world had just changed before it even began. I wanted to scream, but my voice wouldn't come out. I wanted to knock, to make him open that door and explain himself. Instead, I just stood there in silence. Across the street, a curtain shifted. Someone was watching. Then the light went out. Nobody wanted to get involved. I sat down on the porch step. The air was cold. My body still ached from labor, but the pain inside was worse. I stared at that lock, feeling my heartbeat rise in my throat. I whispered to my son, "We're okay. Mommy's here." The night felt endless. Cars passed in the distance. Somewhere, a dog barked. The house stayed silent. Then, from far down the street, headlights. A car was coming. My heart jumped. It was his car. I knew the sound of that engine, the uneven hum, the way it used to pull into the driveway every night. I stood up. For a moment, I believed he'd stop, step out, apologize, fix it all. But he didn't. The car slowed near the house, and I saw her in the passenger seat, his mother. She glanced at me through the window, her mouth curling into a satisfied smile. Then they drove past. No words. No pause. Just gone. I didn't move. I sat again, holding the baby tighter. His breath was steady. Mine wasn't. When I finally found the strength to pull out my phone, the screen lit up weakly. 1% battery. I turned it on. Notifications started flooding in. Messages, missed calls, unknown numbers, and then his name. One call, then another, then another. By the time the phone died again, there were 37 missed calls. He was begging, but I didn't pick up. I didn't even cry. I just looked at the lock again, then at my baby, and said quietly, "Let him wait." Because for the first time in a long time, I realized something. I had nothing left to lose. And when a woman has nothing left to lose, that's when the story really begins. Before the lock, before the note, before those 37 missed calls, everything had already started to rot, slowly, quietly, the kind of slow collapse you don't notice until the floor's gone. Back then, nothing looked wrong. He still said good morning, still asked how I slept. His mother had just come to help. That's what he told me, and I believed him. At first it was small. She folded laundry, cooked dinner, washed dishes while humming like a saint. Then she started moving things. My coffee mug disappeared from the counter, my picture frame from the hallway. Little by little, the house began to look less like ours and more like hers. When I came home one evening, her shoes lined the entryway. Her suitcase was open in the guest room. "I'll stay for a while," she said, "just until the baby comes. You'll need help." She smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. It was a test, to see if I'd object. I didn't. I was 8 months pregnant and too tired to argue. From that day, the rules changed. The guest room became her room. She changed the curtains, replaced our towels with her own, even rearranged the furniture in the living room. When I mentioned it to him, he said, "She's just making the place more comfortable. Be nice." I started feeling like a guest in my own home. She commented on everything, my cooking, my clothes, even the way I breathed. "You shouldn't lift heavy things," she said, taking the grocery bags from me. Then, in a softer voice, "Let a real woman handle it." Every word sounded polite, but each one left a bruise. Soon he stopped spending evenings with me. He'd sit with her, watching TV, laughing at jokes I didn't get. When I tried to talk, they'd go quiet. If I asked what was wrong, he'd sigh. "You always think someone's against you. My mom's just trying to help." The help never stopped. She started managing our bills. "You need rest," she said. "I'll take care of it." Then one day, the bank card didn't work. "Must be a glitch," he said. "Mom's handling it for now." For now. Those 2 words kept repeating like a curse. The day before my doctor's appointment, I found her in the nursery. She was painting over the pale yellow walls I'd chosen. "I thought blue would be better," she said. "My grandson should have a proper color." I froze. My hands clenched. "You could have asked me," I said. She looked at me, calm, like I was a child. "I don't need to ask," she whispered. "This is my son's house." That was the first time she said it out loud, and the first time I realized she meant every word. That night, I told him what happened. He rubbed his eyes. "You're overreacting. You know how she gets." I asked him, "Do you believe me or her?" He said nothing, just walked out of the room. From then on, she stopped pretending. She criticized me in front of him. She told neighbors she was the one decorating the nursery, that I wasn't good with money. And when I overheard her on the phone one evening, I caught only a few words. Deed. Transfer. She won't notice. I confronted him again. "Are you selling the house?" He laughed. "Don't be ridiculous. Why would I?" But his eyes didn't match his smile. 2 weeks later, I went into labor. He drove me to the hospital, silent the whole way. Not a single word, not even when I reached for his hand. He didn't stay through the delivery. The nurse said he left after signing some papers. When the baby was born, I looked at his tiny face and thought, this changes everything. He'll see now. He'll come back to us. He didn't. For 2 days, no call, no message. Then, on the morning I was discharged, the nurse wheeled me to the entrance. I waited for the car that never came. I called him once, straight to voicemail, so I ordered a cab myself. The driver asked, "Where to, ma'am?" I said, "Home." But when we turned onto my street, I saw the porch, the lock glinting under the light, and for the first time, the word home didn't mean anything. I didn't know it yet, but everything that happened next, the note, the calls, the panic, was already set in motion long before that night. Because while I was bringing a life into this world, they were already busy taking mine apart. The phone lit up again, buzzing on the wooden step beside me. I didn't move. The screen flashed his name, faded, then lit again. Over and over. 37 calls and counting. The baby stirred, letting out a small cry. I held him tighter, feeling his tiny heartbeat against my chest. "Shh," I whispered. "We're fine." My voice was steady, even though nothing about me was. When the phone stopped ringing, I thought it was finally over. But then, a message. One line. "Please pick up." I didn't know she'd do this. I stared at the words. My mind ran through every lie, every excuse, every time he said, "You're imagining things." And now suddenly, he didn't know? The phone buzzed again. Another message. "It's not what you think." I laughed quietly. The sound startled even me. "It's exactly what I think," I whispered. Another call came in. This time I answered. Silence at first, then his voice. Panicked, trembling, the voice of someone who just realized they'd burned their last bridge. "Where are you? Please tell me you're safe. I swear I didn't lock the door. It was her. She went too far." I said nothing. The baby shifted, his small breath against my skin, the only sound on my side. "Please," he begged. "I'll fix this. I'll get you back inside. I'll throw her out. Just tell me where you are." I looked at the house. The curtains moved slightly. Someone was inside. Her. Watching. "She's there, isn't she?" I asked. He hesitated. That pause told me everything. "She's in my house," I said, "with my things, my child's room, and you're calling me from God knows where, pretending to be the hero." "I didn't know she'd change the locks," he said, his words tumbling fast. "She said it was for safety." "Safety from what?" I cut in. "From me? The woman who carried your child?" He didn't answer. I could hear his breathing, nervous, cornered. "Listen," he said finally, his voice low. "I'll come right now. Just wait there." "No," I said. "Don't come. Please, just—" I said don't. My voice surprised me. Sharp, final, the kind that doesn't need to shout. "You've done enough." He tried again. "It's not what you think. She convinced me we needed the deed in her name just until—" "Until what?" I asked. "Until you finished handing her my life?" He went quiet. "You're lying again," I said softly, "and you're not even good at it anymore." The silence stretched. Then, faint in the background, I heard her voice. Distant, but sharp. She was saying something to him. He lowered his tone like he didn't want her to hear. "I'll fix this," he said again. "I promise. I'll make it right." "You can't," I said. "Not this time." I hung up. The baby whimpered. I looked at him, those small eyes trying to open, to see the world for the first time, and I felt something solid settle inside me. Not rage, not grief, clarity. I wasn't going to fight to get back in. I was going to make sure they wanted out. The next day started with planning. I found a friend from work, someone who owed me a favor, and asked if I could stay for a few days. She didn't ask questions, just handed me a spare key. That night, while feeding the baby, I charged my phone and went through our shared accounts. I expected fear. Instead, I found control. Every bank transaction told a story. The house deed, transferred. The savings, drained. The insurance policy, changed. All under his name and hers. But what they forgot was this. I had copies, emails, screenshots, messages, every transfer he'd ever made for convenience. And one more thing. The phone location. His mother's phone was still linked to our family account. I could see it, moving around inside my house. I smiled for the first time in days. Let him keep calling. Let him beg. Because now, the next move was mine. When the baby fell asleep, I stood by the window, watching the light from that house. I could almost see her silhouette, pacing, checking the curtains. She thought I was broken, that I'd crawl back. But she didn't know what happens when you leave a mother with nothing but truth and time. That's when she becomes dangerous. And I was just getting started. By morning, the fear was gone. What replaced it wasn't anger. It was focus. While the world still slept, I sat at my friend's kitchen table, feeding my son with one arm and scrolling through my phone with the other. Every message, every transfer, every email told a story they thought I'd never read. They wanted me erased, but they left fingerprints everywhere. The house deed had been signed over temporarily while I was in the last month of pregnancy. I found the document in my inbox, marked for review. I remembered asking him about it once. He smiled then, kissed my forehead and said, "Don't worry, it's just paperwork. My mom's handling it for us." Now that signature had cost me everything, but not for long. I found the number of a family lawyer I once met through a coworker. I called and explained only the essentials. He didn't sound surprised. "Meet me today," he said. "Bring every document you can find." By noon, I was sitting in his office. tired, pale, holding my baby wrapped in the same blanket from the hospital. The lawyer, an older man with calm eyes, read through the papers in silence. He didn't interrupt once. Finally, he looked up. "They made it look clean," he said, "but not clean enough." I leaned forward. "What do you mean?" He slid one paper toward me. "This transfer. You were still legally married. Any change to shared property requires your notarized consent. This isn't valid." My heart beat faster. "So they can't keep the house?" "They can try," he said, "but it won't last. You still have leverage, more than you think." I left his office with a folder full of proof and a strange kind of calm. I wasn't broken anymore, I was armed. That evening, he called again. I let it ring until voicemail. His messages came nonstop. "Please talk to me. She's scared. We'll fix this, just don't do anything stupid." Stupid. That word stuck with me. I called him back that night. He answered so fast it almost made me laugh. "Where are you?" he asked immediately. "Please, come home. It's not safe out there." "Home?" I said quietly. "You mean her house?" He sighed. "Don't start." "I'm not starting," I cut him off. "I'm finishing." He tried to sound calm. "You don't understand what she's capable of." "Oh, I understand perfectly," I said. "You just finally realized what I'm capable of." He went silent. I could hear muffled voices, her voice, asking who he was talking to. He lied to her. No one. Work stuff. That was my confirmation. They were still pretending, even to each other. When I hung up, I felt nothing. No sadness, no fear, just purpose. The next day, I met the lawyer again. We printed copies, organized statements, and sent official notices. My name went back on the property records. Their control cracked before they even noticed. But I wasn't done. I wanted them to feel what I felt, helpless, exposed, small. I went back to the house that evening, parked across the street, and watched through the windshield. The lights were on. Shadows moved behind the curtains. 2 people pacing, arguing. I rolled down the window just enough to hear fragments. Her voice, sharp as ever. "She's going to ruin everything. I told you to handle it." His voice lower. "I didn't think she'd fight back." Fight back. That made me smile. They thought I'd fall apart. Instead, I was building something new. Not revenge for revenge's sake, but justice that would stick. As I drove away, my baby stirred, eyes opening just enough to catch the blur of lights outside. "Don't worry," I whispered. "Mommy's got this." When I got home to my friend's place, I opened my laptop. There was one more thing to do. I uploaded every document, every message, and scheduled them. All time to send to his work email, to her church group, to the realtor handling her house. All with one click. It wasn't about humiliation. It was about truth. And truth, once set free, doesn't go back in the cage. Before bed, I checked my phone one last time. Another message came in from him. "I just saw what you did. We need to talk. Please." I turned off the screen and whispered into the dark. "No, you had your chance." Outside, the wind moved through the trees like applause, because the woman they locked out was gone. And the one who replaced her, she had a plan, and they were already in it. Morning came cold and sharp. I hadn't slept. The baby did, though, peaceful, unaware that his mother was about to turn the world upside down. I started with silence. No calls, no messages. Let them sweat. By noon, I knew the lawyer's letters had arrived. My phone buzzed nonstop. "You didn't have to do this. We could have fixed it together. Mom is losing it." Good. I made coffee and watched through the window as if nothing had changed, but inside me, everything had. There's a kind of strength that comes from being underestimated too long. It's quiet, calm, and lethal. By evening, the first domino fell. Her church group. Someone forwarded me a message thread. She'd gone there to brag months ago, how she saved her son from a manipulative wife. Now those same people had the documents. The property transfers, the forged signatures, the truth. They didn't defend her. They questioned her. Then they turned away. That night, I went for a drive. The same street, the same house. Lights flickering behind the curtains. I parked across the road just like before. But this time, I wasn't the woman begging for answers. I was the one holding them. He called again. This time, I picked up. His voice was shaky. "What did you do?" "I told the truth," I said. "You should try it sometime." "She's panicking," he said. "You don't know what she's capable of." "Oh, I know," I said. "That's why I'm not scared anymore." He hesitated. "Can we talk? Face to face?" "Where?" "Our place," he said. "Tomorrow. Please, just no lawyers." I paused. I knew what this was, desperation disguised as peace, but that was fine. I wanted to look them both in the eyes. "Fine," I said. "Tomorrow morning." I hung up. The next day, I left the baby with my friend, drove to the house I once called home. The same padlock was still there, but the note was gone. Instead, he waited on the porch, pale, hollow-eyed. When he saw me, he tried to smile. "You look tired." I didn't answer. Inside, she was standing near the kitchen, arms crossed, the same false calm she always wore. "You've made quite a mess," she said. "Everyone's talking." "Good," I said. "Let them." She stepped closer. "You think this makes you strong? You've humiliated your own family." "Family?" I repeated. "Family doesn't throw you out after childbirth." He tried to speak, but she cut him off. "You'll regret this." I turned to her. "No, you will." I pulled the folder from my bag, placed it on the counter, and opened it. The copies, the lawyer's stamp, the evidence. Every document you forged, every lie, all of it's already sent. You can't take it back. Her face changed. No words, just shock that her game was over. "You think you can scare me?" she said finally. I smiled. "I don't need to." I looked at him then. The man who once promised forever. "You wanted peace? Sign these papers. The divorce. The custody agreement. I won't fight you if you don't fight me." He looked between us, his mother's glare, my calm. And I saw it, that flicker of realization. The control he'd traded for comfort was gone. He signed, slowly, shaking. When I left, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could already hear her yelling, blaming him, the same way she always did. Outside, the air felt lighter. The sun hit the roof just right, and for the first time in months, the house didn't look like mine or hers. It looked empty. And that was perfect, because I wasn't going back. I drove home, parked in front of my friend's house, and picked up my son. He opened his eyes, looked at me like he already knew. It was over. But deep down, I knew it wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of what they'd lost. And I wasn't done watching it unfold. The storm didn't come with thunder. It came with whispers. By the end of that week, the whole town knew. Her friends stopped calling. Her phone calls went unanswered. The same people who once nodded when she entered a room now crossed the street to avoid her. She tried to control the damage, posted pictures of charity events, wrote long captions about being misunderstood. But screenshots don't disappear, and proof speaks louder than pity. The image of the perfect mother-in-law shattered overnight. I didn't need to watch it happen, but I did, quietly. Not for revenge, just to understand what justice actually looks like. Turns out it's not loud, it's patient. He tried reaching out again, through mutual friends, through messages that started polite and ended desperate. "I'm sorry. She went too far. We can fix this." Fix? There was nothing left to fix. I focused on the baby. His laugh came easily now. His eyes followed the light. For the first time in months, I could breathe without waiting for someone to take that air away. Still, at night, memories crept in. Not of love, of manipulation disguised as care. The small ways they trained me to be quiet, to apologize, to make myself smaller so they could feel big. I promised myself my son would never learn that version of family. When the lawyer called, his tone was lighter. "It's done," he said. "The property is officially back in your name." Just like that, the house that had been stolen on paper was mine again. But I didn't rush to move back. The walls still carried their noise. I wanted peace, not echoes. I rented a small apartment near the park. Sunlight came through the windows in the morning, hitting the crib just right. It smelled like new beginnings, paint, dust, and hope. The first week there, I barely slept, not from fear, but from freedom. It's strange how silence feels heavy when you're not used to it. He showed up once, knocked on the door. No warning. When I opened it, he looked thinner. His voice was soft. I just wanted to see him. I hesitated, then stepped aside. He looked at the baby, smiled weakly, whispered, "Hey, little man." For a moment, I saw what we used to be. Then I remembered everything that followed. "You can visit," I said, "but only if you come alone. She's not welcome." He nodded, guilt thick in his eyes. "She's gone," he said. "Moved out. People turned on her." "Good," I said. "Maybe now she'll finally understand what it means to lose something real." He looked down, then back at me. "I don't expect you to forgive me." "I don't plan to," I said, "but I do hope you learn." He left quietly, closing the door with care, something he hadn't done in years. When the sound faded, I held my son and realized I didn't feel hatred anymore, just distance, the kind that comes after fire, when everything burned away except what matters. Days turned into weeks. I got a job again, part-time. I walked the baby to the park each morning. People smiled at us. No pity, no judgment, just normal human warmth. I hadn't realized how much I'd missed that. One afternoon, my lawyer called again. "There's talk," he said. "She's trying to claim emotional distress. You might be contacted." I laughed softly. "Let her. I have receipts." And I did. But something in me had changed. I didn't want another fight. I wanted a future. That night, while rocking the baby to sleep, I whispered, "We're safe now." He blinked up at me, calm, unbothered by the world's noise. Outside, the city lights glowed. Somewhere out there, they were facing their own silence. And me? I was finally learning how to live again, not as a victim, not as a survivor, but as someone free. Tomorrow, I'd take my son to the beach, let him feel wind, see water, and laugh for no reason. Because after everything, the lock, the note, the 37 calls, I'd earned the right to just exist. And that, more than revenge or justice, was my victory. The months that followed felt unreal, not because everything was perfect, but because it was finally quiet. No more footsteps I didn't trust behind me, no more pretending everything was fine for the sake of peace. I built a routine from nothing. Morning walks in the park, coffee from the same corner shop, a small job at a design studio downtown. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills and reminded me that I was more than someone's wife. My coworkers didn't know my story, only that I was reliable and worked through lunch. I liked it that way. At home, the baby started to crawl. His laughter filled the tiny apartment like sunlight, and every sound he made erased a bit of the noise they'd left in my head. I thought that was the end of it. But peace never lasts long when someone like him needs saving. It started with an email, short, formal, and unsigned. "You'll want to hear what's happening. It concerns him. Call this number." I deleted it. Then another came the next day. "He's in trouble. Real trouble. And it might come back to you." I almost ignored it again, until I noticed the attachment. A scanned document, a financial report, his name next to mine. He'd used our old joint account for something big and illegal enough to drag me down with him. My hands went cold. I called my lawyer. He sighed when I read the numbers aloud. "Your ex-husband's been moving money again," he said, "but this time, not for his mother." "Then for who?" He hesitated. "Himself. And now the bank wants answers. You're still technically tied to that account. So that's why he disappeared for weeks. He wasn't rebuilding. He was drowning. And about to pull me down too. That night, he called. His voice cracked like glass. I need help, please. They froze everything. I didn't know your name was still on it. You didn't know? I said quietly. You didn't know a lot of things, remember? I'll fix it, he said. I swear. But I need you to say you authorized the last transaction. Just once. They'll unfreeze the funds and I'll make it right. You want me to lie for you? I said. It's just paperwork. Those same words. Just paperwork. The same words that almost took my house, my life, my sanity. No, I said. I'm done saving you. You don't understand, he shouted. They'll come for me. Then let them. Silence. Then his voice dropped low. You think you're untouchable? You think they won't drag you in? You're still on the documents. He was right about that. But what he didn't know, I'd already handled it. My lawyer had filed the separation of liability weeks before. His debts, his name, his mess, not mine. I let him talk until his voice cracked again, begging, bargaining, trying to resurrect the woman who used to forgive him. But she didn't live here anymore. When I hung up, my hands were steady. I walked to the window, watching city lights blink like tired eyes. For the first time, I felt not fear, but clarity. He wasn't calling for love or even forgiveness. He was calling because he was drowning, and he thought I'd jump in after him. Not this time. 2 days later, the lawyer confirmed it. His accounts frozen, his reputation gone, the investigation moving fast. Do I need to do anything? I asked. No, he said. You already did enough. That night, I sat by my son's crib, listening to him breathe. The kind of peace you can't buy or fake. Outside, the wind moved softly against the glass. Sometimes people break you to see if you'll rebuild. Sometimes they don't realize the person who comes back isn't the same one who left. And somewhere, across town, he was learning that too. The hard way. Because you can't bury someone who learned how to dig her way out. And I wasn't done climbing. His collapse didn't come suddenly. It was slow, ugly, and public. By the end of the month, every news feed in town carried the story. Local contractor under investigation for fraud and identity manipulation. His photo flashed across the screen. The same face that once said he'd take care of me, now pale under fluorescent lights. I didn't smile, not even once. There was no pleasure in watching it, only quiet recognition. The truth catching up. My phone buzzed all morning. Reporters, strangers, even old friends asking if it was really him. I said nothing. I owed no one an explanation. By evening, the lawyer called again. They'll probably reach out to you, he said. The investigators. They'll want to know what you knew, what you signed. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. Should I cooperate? That's your choice, he said softly. You're not obligated. You've already cleared yourself legally, but they'll push. After the call, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the baby monitor. My son slept soundly, his small chest rising and falling in rhythm with the hum of the heater. I wanted to protect that peace, even from the truth. 2 days later, the knock came. 2 agents, polite but firm. They asked for a few minutes. I let them in. They didn't waste time. You were listed on joint accounts. You filed separation documents, yes? Yes. And you had no part in the transactions. No, I said, but I know who did. I gave them copies. Every message, every email, every transfer. The paper trail that began with his mother's manipulations and ended with his greed. They thanked me. One of them paused at the door. You could have stayed silent, he said. I was silent for too long, I answered. After they left, I stood by the window again. It was raining, steady, cold, honest. That night, the news showed footage of him being escorted out of his office in handcuffs. His eyes darted toward the cameras, searching for sympathy that wasn't there. I wondered if he thought of me or the son he hadn't seen in weeks. My lawyer called one last time. "It's over," he said. "You're clear. He'll face charges alone." I thanked him and hung up. For a long time, I just sat there, listening to the quiet. No phone ringing, no yelling, no manipulation disguised as love. Later that night, I opened the old box where I'd kept everything. The hospital bracelet, the eviction note, the first ultrasound photo. Proof of how far we'd fallen before we learned to stand again. I didn't hate him anymore. Hate takes energy, and I'd rather give that to my son. What I felt was something colder, simpler. Closure. The next morning, I took my boy to the park. The air was clean after the rain, the grass shining. He laughed when the wind touched his face, and I realized something important. I wasn't afraid of the future anymore. For so long, I thought freedom would feel like revenge, but it didn't. It felt like breathing without permission. As we walked home, the sun cut through the clouds, and for the first time, I didn't think about the past. Somewhere, he was learning what happens when you mistake someone's kindness for weakness. Somewhere, she was remembering the day she told me I'd live on the street. And me? I was home, not in a house, not on a deed, but in my own skin. The story that began with a lock on a door ended with one on my heart, not to keep people out, but to guard the peace I'd earned. And this time, the key belonged only to me. A year passed. The world didn't look the same, but maybe that was the point. I had a new apartment, bigger, brighter, filled with the kind of silence that doesn't hurt. My son was walking now, steady on small feet, laughing at every sound life made. His joy had a rhythm, and I built my days around it. Work was better, too. The studio made me a manager. They said I had a talent for calm under pressure. If only they knew where I learned it. Everything I had was simple, but it was mine. No one could take it. No signatures, no lies, no locks. Then one afternoon, it arrived. A white envelope. No return address. The handwriting was familiar. Too careful. Too practiced. I knew before I opened it. Inside, a letter. Folded neatly. Words written in blue ink. "You don't owe me anything. I know that. But I need you to hear me once. They say prison teaches you lessons. It doesn't. It only gives you time. Too much of it. Enough to remember everything you destroyed. I think about the day you came home from the hospital. The lock. The note. I didn't stop her. I didn't stop myself. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want to know if our son is okay. I know I'll never see you again. That's fair. But if you ever tell him about me, please don't say I was a monster. Say I was weak, because that's what I was." The page ended there. No signature, no name, just an address on the back, the prison mailing center. I sat for a long time, staring at those words, not crying, just thinking. I'd imagined this moment before. The apology, the guilt, the closure. But now that it was real, it didn't feel powerful. It felt small, human. I folded the letter and tucked it into a drawer, not to forget, but to keep it where it belonged, in the past. That night, I read to my son before bed. He pointed at pictures, tried to say words. When he finally fell asleep, I whispered, "You're safe." But later, when I stood by the window, I caught myself wondering, could someone change if they lost everything? The next morning, I wrote a reply. Short, honest. He's healthy. He laughs every day. He doesn't know your story, and he won't. Not yet. Maybe one day, when he's old enough to understand that people can break and still start over. I don't forgive you, but I don't hate you either. I didn't send it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Instead, I folded it next to his letter. Two truths side by side. A week later, I took my son to the ocean. The air smelled like salt and wind. He ran toward the waves, unsteady but fearless. I stood there, watching him, realizing something that should have scared me but didn't. I wasn't running from the past anymore. I was walking through it, and beyond it. Some people spend their lives locking doors. I learned how to build new ones. And this time, no one else had the key. Years passed quietly. Like pages turning in a book, I finally learned how to write myself. My son grew fast, too fast. One day, he was clinging to my leg, afraid to walk on sand. The next, he was running ahead of me, fearless, laughing at the waves that used to scare him. He never asked much about his father. Children have a strange wisdom. They sense the weight behind the questions adults don't ask. But when he turned 10, he came to me after school, holding a folded paper he'd found in a drawer. It was the letter. "Mom," he said softly. "Who wrote this?" I looked at him. His dark eyes, his careful tone. He wasn't a baby anymore. He deserved the truth, not the version wrapped in pity. We sat by the window. Outside, the evening light fell like gold across the floor. "Your father did," I said, "a long time ago." He was quiet. Was he bad? I took a breath. He was lost. He made choices that hurt people. He hurt me. But he wasn't born bad. He forgot who he was, and he didn't fight hard enough to remember. He frowned, thinking. "Did you love him?" "Yes," I said. "Once." Loving someone doesn't mean keeping them forever. Sometimes it means letting go so they can't keep breaking you. He looked down at the letter again. Did he love me? I smiled sadly. I think he did, in his own way. He just didn't know how to show it. We sat in silence for a while. Then he asked the question I knew would come someday. "Where is he now?" "He's far away," I said gently. "He made mistakes he has to live with. But we're safe now. That's what matters." He nodded slowly, then folded the letter and handed it back. "Can we keep it?" "Of course," I said. "It's part of our story, but not the end of it." That night, after he fell asleep, I stood by the window again. The same place where so many nights before I'd cried, planned, survived. The city lights shimmered, calm and distant. I thought about the girl I was, standing on a porch with a newborn in her arms and nowhere to go. She wouldn't recognize the woman I'd become, and maybe that's the point. I didn't win by destroying them. I won by rebuilding myself, piece by piece, quietly, steadily. The next morning, I packed our bags for a weekend trip. My son's school had given me a few days off, and he wanted to see the mountains. I wanted him to see something bigger than pain, to know that life expands after the storm. As we drove, he pointed out the window, naming clouds and trees, asking questions about everything. At one stop, he looked at me and said, "Mom, you always look calm, even when things go wrong." I laughed. I wasn't always, but I learned. "How?" he asked. "By losing everything," I said, smiling, and realizing I didn't lose myself. We reached the mountain before sunset. The air was cool, full of pine and silence. I watched him run ahead, chasing the wind, and I thought, maybe that's the legacy I wanted to give him. Not money, not bitterness, strength. Before he disappeared over the hill, he turned back and shouted, "Come on, Mom!" And I did, because I could. The world no longer felt heavy. The ghosts were quiet. And for the first time in years, I didn't think about survival, only about tomorrow. Maybe he'll read that letter again someday when he's grown and wonder how his mother did it. And I hope he'll understand what I couldn't explain back then, that peace isn't found in revenge. It's found in walking away and never looking back. Time has a strange rhythm once you make peace with it. Some years fly by in color, others pass in gray, slow and soundless, but eventually they all bring you to the same truth. Nothing stays buried forever. It was a quiet Thursday morning when the call came. I was sorting laundry, my son at school, the radio murmuring somewhere in the background. The voice on the phone was official, practiced, detached. "Ma'am, I'm calling regarding Mr. Carter. We believe you were once his spouse." The name hit like cold water. I hadn't heard it spoken aloud in years. Yes, I said slowly. I'm sorry to inform you he passed away last night. Heart failure. The state needs to confirm if you'll be handling any personal effects. For a moment, the room went still. Not sadness, not even shock, just the odd feeling that the final page of a book had turned itself. I thanked the caller, hung up, and sat in silence. His death didn't feel real, maybe because, in my mind, he'd already been gone a long time. Still, something inside me stirred. Not grief, but unfinished business. The kind you don't talk about, the kind that whispers go see for yourself. That weekend, I drove to the small county facility where they kept unclaimed belongings. A guard led me to a gray plastic bin with his name on it. Inside were a few clothes, a cheap watch, and a folder of letters he'd written but never sent. The guard gave me space. I sat on the bench and opened one. The handwriting was shaky, like the ink carried guilt. I kept thinking I'd fix it all when I got out, that I'd find the right words. But maybe the punishment isn't prison. Maybe it's knowing that some people keep walking while you stay still. Another letter, dated months later. Tell him I'm proud if he ever asks. Tell him I remember the sound he made when he first cried. Tell him I wish I'd been better. You were always stronger. I just didn't see it until it was too late. I stopped reading. My eyes blurred, but not from tears, from the weight of a story that had finally run out of pages. I put the letters back, closed the box, and signed the release papers. The clerk asked if I wanted to claim the rest. I said no. On the drive home, the sky looked heavy with rain. The wipers moved in slow rhythm, the road stretching endlessly ahead. For a moment, I thought about turning the car around, going to the service, standing there for closure. But then I realized I'd already had it. The day I stopped waiting for apologies. The day I stopped needing to be the one who forgives. When I got home, my son was drawing at the table. He looked up, smiled. "You okay, Mom?" "I'm fine," I said, and it was true. He handed me his drawing. 2 figures standing on a hill under a bright sun. "That's us," he said proudly. "You and me." I smiled. "It's perfect." That night, after he went to bed, I took the box of letters to the backyard. The air smelled like rain and soil. I lit a small flame and watched the papers curl, their edges turning to light before fading into ash. It wasn't anger. It was release. Some people build their freedom with revenge, others with forgiveness. I built mine with letting go. As the last ember died, I looked up at the sky. Dark, wide, endless. He was gone. But I was here. And that was enough. Tomorrow I'd wake up, make breakfast, walk my son to school. Life would keep moving, the way it always does after storms. And every time the world felt uncertain again, I'd remember the one thing that never changed. I survived. Not by chance. By choice. If this story touched you, don't just scroll away. Hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Every click helps these stories reach someone who still needs the courage to start over. Tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Your voice might be the one that gives strength to another.